Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of the Disc Golf Answer Man.
So say I'm putting inside the circle and I throw my putt and accidentally foot fault forward. Can I? Well, first I guess the first question is, can I call myself on a foot fault, or how do you go about making that right? I think that's the gist of the question.
I believe it was a year or two ago, in the last few years, they have changed the rule that you cannot call a foot fault on yourself.
That was my understanding as well.
So, I know there was some questionable situations with a number of top pros and others where they had missed a putt, maybe somewhat intentionally, then foot faulted, looking for the call, and then they were technically using it to their advantage, which is obviously not the spirit of the rule in the first place, or really the spirit of the game.
Yeah.
But
so then
I've heard of multiple situations of that happening.
Right. So then how do you think, if you do it on accident, if you're not trying to gain a competitive advantage, but nobody really sees, what's kind of the best recourse to get that figured out?
I would think that there would be some type of warning that would be issued amongst the group, would be my best case. I haven't really ever thought about it in the past as to if that situation unfolds, but immediately I think if I were to throw a putt, for instance, and I knew that I foot faulted, but no one in the group called me on it, but I certainly foot faulted, whether I made it or missed it, A, I would hope they would call it, and B, if they didn't, I would hope we should at least come to a consensus that I should be warned.
Sure.
So if it were to happen again, I would for sure be penalized. I don't know if that's kind of like still calling it, but I mean, if you call it on someone, the first time is a warning, and then you have to re-putt regardless whether you made it or missed it.
Right. Huh. Okay.
I think.
All right.
Yes.
So if you were to putt and then no one was to call it, maybe you can't call your own foot fault on yourself, but you should be able to at least warn yourself. Yeah, you can warn yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have an outburst and you yell or scream at your card mates, or you bust out an expletive,
like you used
and then
to do all
you
the time
immediately
when you played.
say, "Hey, I'm going to put a warning down for myself on the card."
Yeah.
I would assume this would be along those lines.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, that makes sense. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation because, as we all know, everyone hates to be that guy and call foot fault, and sometimes they're more blatant than others.
Right.
But it's really awkward depending on if the person makes it or misses it. And it should have no impact or bearing whatsoever, but we all know that sometimes it does. Sometimes when you see someone foot fault, it almost feels okay that when they foot fault and you don't call it on them and they've missed it, you're kind of thinking, well, maybe that's what they deserve.
Yeah.
But when they make it, you're more inclined to call it. And it shouldn't be that way. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
It shouldn't matter. You should call it no matter what. But there's a certain amount of awkwardness there sometimes, depending if people do or don't make it.
Yeah.
For sure.